Welcome to Who Put This On, Season 3, Episode 30. I'm Chris Loren. Where we watch Forged in Fire, Season 4, Episode 4. I'm Chris Lorenz.
Robert Kitts.
Noah Singer.
Man, I don't know what to think about this show.
It's an interesting show.
It's competition.
It's a show.
It's a show.
It's definitely a show.
Fired up about it?
No, Rob, give me the description on this show.
Forged in Fire is an original competition series hosted by weapons expert and U.S. Army and Air Force veteran Will Willis, featuring world-class bladesmiths competing to create history's most iconic edged weapons. In each episode, 4 of the nation's finest bladesmiths come together to put their skill and reputations on the line, trying to avoid elimination and win the $10,000 prize. They use sweat, fire, force of will, and a well-equipped forge to turn raw material into authentic, fully functional implements of war. It's kind of a long description, by the way.
Yeah.
These weapons must stand up to a battery of strength and sharpness tests, as well as the critical assessment of our expert judges David Baker, Doug Marcadia, and ABS Master Bladesmiths Jay Nielsen and Jason Knight. The 4th season features all new challenges and special event episodes that set the bar of competition bladesmithing to unimaginable new heights. We're going global for an unprecedented international competition, and fan-favorite bladesmiths will reappear for a second shot at victory and redemption, and for the first time ever, masters and apprentices will team up to compete in our forge. Plus, a fresh crop of competitors emerge to see if they have what it takes to stand a cut above the rest and earn the coveted title of Forged in Fire Champion. That's Forged in Fire on History Network.
Wait, I think we need a cutoff at some point.
That was a very detailed...
It's on the History
description.
Channel, right?
History Channel.
History Channel, okay. This makes no sense.
Because they're doing history's most famous weapon. What was it?
That's true. There was a small history lesson in this episode.
Yeah. There were 2 behind each sword.
We'll get to it. I'll give you what the show is.
Give it to me.
It's a standard competition, 4 people, 1 winner, judges, you get eliminated. That's it. There's nothing special in this show.
It's basically a cooking show, except instead of cooking, they're cooking metal into blades of death.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it.
It is true. They find out if these blades can cut or they can kill.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's 4 people. I have no idea what their names are. They get introduced. They have to forge a karambit, which is kind of a curved knife that can be used in either direction for lacerations or stabbing. So that is our we'll get to the history lesson involved with that. So all 4 of them are given some steel. They forge this in studio, forges and tools, and then they're judged on how they look, right?
How they look and how they feel.
How they look and how they feel.
And also how well the blade was made, the karambit. It seemed like it was more complex on the convexes.
Well, we'll get to it. I'm just going over what happens.
Okay. It's
A little too much minutia there, Noah.
We're not in the minutia yet, Noah. So after that, somebody gets kicked off. I don't know who it was. Doesn't matter. Then they have another 3 hours to add a handle to their blade, and then it's judged on how sharp and how well the blade actually handles and holds up, and somebody gets eliminated. And then after that, they're given a 3rd challenge, which is what's the name of the stupid thing?
It's like maraca, right?
Yeah, a macraca.
Macraca, sorry.
It's a macraca, which is a long curved sword, and they have to go home to their home forges and make this weapon. Then they come back and they're judged based on their macraca design, and 1 person wins, and now we can get into the minutia of this episode?
So first thing I'll say about this episode and this show is just it didn't waste time. Like there's very little preamble, and the next thing you know, they're like drawing knives and figuring out how they're gonna do this thing. Like the host didn't spend much time explaining what was going on. It was like, go, you got to start making something.
There's a lot of content, but to say that there was some reality show editing in this.
There's definitely some reality show editing in this, but like it really got to the knife making pretty quick.
Oh yeah, the first like minute of this thing, they're making these things.
Yeah, for sure.
They're like minute 1, they explain what they're doing, give it this thing, and minute and a half, it's like, okay, well, I'm cutting and putting this in the forge. And the one thing that I like, it's very odd. This show reminds me a lot of the Stone Cold show.
Oh, Broken Skull Challenge.
Broken Skull Challenge. Like it's one day thing. They're all winner take all, and there's no nonsense. We're just moving. We're like, this is the challenge. Go, which is very nice. Like there's definitely some reality shows where it's like, all right, we're gonna explain the challenge for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I was watching the beginning of Documental season 1, and it's just like so slow. It's like, could you move any slower? Whereas like this, it's bang, 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 bang. However, saying that, the first thing they get to do is plan. And it's like these people just drawing these knives and never looking at them again.
Yeah.
And then they go to these forges, and we kind of literally have no idea what they're doing. This is my problem with the cooking shows too. Sometimes you're like, I kind of want to know. I want to learn. Like, I don't want to just sit here and watch these people work, and you get a kind of an idea of what's going on. Like, you heat the steel up so you can do stuff with it, and like you grind it away to give it an edge. Like, I don't know. Is there more to that? I don't know.
You got to hit with a hammer too. There's also hitting with a hammer.
Yeah, well, that's when you heat it up. You do stuff. Like, I don't know.
That's one thing. Like we picked this episode because it seemed to have good ratings as being like a good episode. But like I do wonder if like some of the earlier season 1 episodes, they spend more time explaining things, and now they're like, Forged in Fire. We don't got to explain all this stuff.
I was thinking. Well, see, season 1 has had 8 episodes. Season 4 is like 20.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Like,
it's a moneymaker at this point.
Yeah.
Well, the History Channel doesn't really have history on it anymore.
What about the history of those aliens?
Yeah.
Bigfoot.
Ooh, let's watch some.
Bring
Let's
him
watch some
back in.
Bigfoot.
Yeah. I don't know why they assume that a lot of people know how to make swords and knives. Like they just gloss over a lot of their techniques.
Well, I don't know if it's that they assume people know, or just that like,
Assume that they've seen all the episodes.
or else just like it's like they want to have the show moving, and so they just are focused on like the people explaining what they're doing, and if they don't do a good job explaining themselves, they just move on and don't take time.
Yeah, but even the tools they have, they're just, at least not being savvy in that, the tools even seem unique. Like the power hammer.
Oh yeah,
I like that power hammer. I want one of those.
That, for those listening to the pod, imagine those things that fall from the sky and try to crush Mario. Like the stones, and you have to run and like not get squashed by them. It's kind of like that, but a machine.
that was not where my mind went with those, but well,
like
done with
I
the
like it.
Analogy, Noah.
Thank you.
It reminds me of a miniature version of Galaxy Quest when they're like trying to get to the button to turn the like self-destruct off. They have to like go through those like giant hammer
I know
things.
what you're talking about. Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm thinking of. It's just like bam, bam, bam.
My favorite part with the power hammer was they had one guy using the power hammer in the background, another guy in the foreground just trying to use a regular hammer and being like, I'm getting real tired. I hope he gets done with that power hammer so I can go use that instead.
Yeah, like all the tools they use, it was unclear like exactly what each thing is, right?
Yeah.
You can tell like, okay, this thing makes it hot, but like it'd be interesting to understand more technical detail of like, oh, why is that an interesting like oven to make a sword?
Yeah, like at one point they talk about that they see the guy's sword looks really hot and they're concerned it's too hot and that it might hurt the integrity of the blade. And like more of that kind of stuff would have been really good.
Yeah, some more like Churchill's Secret Agents kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think that is just like, along with Churchill Secret Agents, like season 2 of that is what? Nothing.
Yeah.
So like another season of how do blades work is not like, maybe you can get more technical and like, but then you have to assume people have seen the show, and this is just like a reality show they just want to stream. So it's like, it's not all that useful, I think, in terms of like a marketing and production quality thing. But you know, it would be nice like to have like a timeout to be like, hey, this is a quick tip on how people make blades.
Yeah.
You know, and it could be different every time, but it doesn't have to like stack. You don't need to know everything about making blades for one episode.
Since you brought it up, would this show be better with Stone Cold as the host and his excellent play-by-play?
I thought you were going somewhere else with that.
No, no, absolutely. The host of this show is very serviceable. I don't need any more. We're moving. I don't need the host to be holding us back.
No, that's true.
Although the Stone Cold insults would be useful.
The Stone Cold
The insults would be good. The play-by-play, no.
The real star is not the host, but one of the judges. So the two of the judges are these blade experts that have insane beards. But then the third judge is a martial arts expert, and he is just got this giant smile on his face all the time, and he really seems to relish talking about how these weapons are going to kill people. And like they had an actual karambit, and he was demonstrating with it, and he was like twirling around his hand. And then at one point he took one of the other judges and he like had it and was like slashing at his neck with it. And it's like, whoa, you were really about to kill this guy.
This seems to be his episode. I don't know if he's like this every episode, but this seems like he loves the karambit and he loves the makraka. Like, I feel like he just loves these weapons.
I think this is his bit. I think he's so excited about all these weapons every time, and he's just so in. And I think but that's his thing.
I think that this one allowed him to really use the karambit well.
Oh yeah,
because it's like a small knife. Like, I don't know what they usually do. From what it seemed like, they said they usually do like they get to pick what they want to do or something.
Yeah, make your signature blade in your signature style.
Yeah,
whatever that means.
So this guy got to like do something really cool that he doesn't like normally get to do. So I feel like he's probably pretty excited about this episode.
That's true.
And he was really good with that karambit. It was just he was like went into like a slashing motion and then quick moved his hand and like stabbed something. Like, I'm just like, oh buddy, like you got to take a step back from this. I don't want to see you doing this.
Yeah, like, I mean, the speed of him flipping the blade in his hand without cutting himself was impressive. Because he goes from like the knife forward to the knife backwards, and he actually has to flip it right in that finger hole, and he's just like doing it like not a thing. Guy's flying.
No, it's very good. So, do you have anything else to say about the? I also one other thing I like is just like, so they're heating up these metals, these red hot temperatures. Every once in a while, something just random catches on fire. Like they dump it in the oil, like that's part of their thing, and so like they put in like there's this flame. Like one guy just dropped his on the ground, and suddenly there was just fire all around it on the ground. That was pretty great.
Yeah, that was cool. I have some notes. There was like the one guy he cut his like sword, and he had like his karambit shaped out pretty much. And he was like, it's too long. Fuck it. And there was like an hour and a half left, and you're like, really? Like, this is you're gonna go home if this thing doesn't like work. And in the second part, he did have to cut it and like re-weld it. So it's like he said fuck it, but it mattered. There was a bunch of like weird other things, like terminology they were using that I'm like, I don't know really what it is. Like the ricasso. Was like the blade part, and then there was like the tang was like the handle.
Oh, we talked a lot about the tang.
There was a lot more talk about the tang than the ricasso, but like they were just using these terms. Nothing on the History Channel told me what the fuck these things
The funny
meant.
thing is, every once in a while they put up like a text on the screen to explain a term, but they did it very irregularly. It's like tang should have definitely been one of those.
Yeah, I was just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Is that terrific to like a karamba? I don't think so, but it could be.
Yeah, we don't know.
Like, I have no idea. Yeah. Like, is there specific terms for specific blades now? Like, does the makraka have a different tang, like different word than tang? I don't know.
Good
No.
question.
They didn't bring up Tang with the Macraca.
Well, I think the tang had something to do with the finger hole. So the Macraca didn't have a finger hole, so I don't think it had
so
a
it's
tang.
like the Tang is the finger hole.
I don't think it is the finger hole. I think it's related to the finger hole.
Yeah,
Just like
I thought
No
it had
idea.
something to do with like the balance or weight of the handle.
Yeah.
Definitely something with the handle.
yeah, the Ricasso seemed to be more along the blade, but I still have no idea. They mentioned it one time, and I was like, that seems odd
Yeah.
because they just swept right through these things. Things are moving.
Things are moving.
They
don't got
can't-
time to explain these terms,
no
Chris.
time
We're
to
moving.
Explain.
Like, it is pretty impressive. They had like 3 hours to make a knife that had like all these specific, like it had to be curved a certain way and had to have sharp on both sides and all this. Like, that's pretty good.
So it's hard to tell how long that is. Like, I don't know how long it takes to make a blade,
Right.
but 3 hours seems like you could do it,
I mean,
Well, yeah.
they
which
did
is
it.
what they did.
Yeah.
But like when you're watching cooking shows, right? They you give you like an hour to make something like crazy, and you're like, that seems ludicrous to make something in that amount of time.
I mean,
whereas like I have no
yeah.
context for that.
It goes
in
back
this.
to your point where if you're making a sword or a knife today, you're doing it for the craftsmanship, the art. You're not doing it for the utility, where I think on a spectrum you have like food, you're primarily doing it for the utility.
I mean, I'm sure
Wait, when
there's
you're
more
starting,
of a mix
right?
of both with food. Whereas like
Yeah.
you're not making these knives to go out freaking like hurt people.
Right. You're not like, oh man, we need a production line of people making knives and swords. Like you have machines to do that now.
Yeah.
Right, if you needed to.
It's definitely all about like how good you can make these things look
Yeah.
and not necessarily about the functionality of any of this.
But do you think of like what they are then skilled to do? Like they've never worked to pump these things out, right?
Yeah.
So like all their skills is how to make these like art pieces basically. Whereas like if you're a cook, you may know how to do the skilled things, but you have that full range of pumping out cupcakes, right? Versus like a beautiful one-off cupcake.
That is true. I wonder if any of these people do like practice challenges like to be on the show.
Could be.
So-
yeah.
Well, maybe this is more for when they get to where they had to go home. But like, is this their job or is this their hobby? Like,
When they introduced the people, they said like kind of what their blade like history was, and I don't remember.
well, it said things like making blades for 19 years, but it wasn't really clear to me if it's like, yeah, like how much employment is there in the making blades industry? So is it really just like a thing for fun? Like they had some pretty intense setups in their garages.
Oh yeah.
So I imagine that these people have other jobs, or at least they had other jobs for a very long time, and now like they either carved a niche out somewhere or they're retired.
Carved a niche out, very very well done.
No one can see me wink, but
I saw it. Don't worry.
Well, they said of the original 4, 2 of them, this was their primary job.
Oh, they said that?
The first 2 kicked off; it was their primary job.
Oh, the first 2.
they did clarify that. I don't think they clarified for the remaining 2.
like I imagine some of these people, some of the competitors looked kind of old. They might be retired, and this is just their side thing.
I guess
Yeah.
that's true. If you're retired and then I just make blades for fun.
Like if you live in the middle of like Montana or somewhere like in the middle of nowhere and you just like travel to like shows to sell your blades, you could probably make a decent amount of money.
Yeah, that's true.
Like it's not like it's a lot of startup costs.
Yeah.
But once you have the forges and the equipment, like
Got to buy that oil.
we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
Interesting too. They did say the people's ages when they started. So the youngest guy was 34. All the other guys were 50 plus.
Oh wow, good memory on that.
It seems like this is like a hobby somebody would pick up at some point in time in their life. And they slowly, depending on how much money they need, like will go more towards selling it on Etsy or at like crafts shows.
Got
Like
it.
I'm surprised like you can go down to like Pike's Market and buy like a blade. It's probably something that they don't allow, but like I grew up in a town with a very similar thing, and there was always people selling like blades and stuff there.
Interesting.
It would be interesting to understand the market for swords. Like, is there any group of people that have a utility?
Do
of
we need to
sorts?
get like a Who Put This On logo on a bunch of karambits that we would then just carry around on our person?
Oh man.
Only the 3 people on the show.
Yeah, only the 3 of us.
Only the 3 of us. The other 3 can
going
anyone
to a
else.
meeting at work. What's that? Oh, it's a
Instead of like a cross. It's just a giant karambit.
Yeah.
it's,
It's just a regular karambit size.
this is part of my religion. I should be able to wear this.
One thing to mention in the first challenge is that one of the guys took off his belt
Oh yeah.
and used that to sharpen his blade. And the judges are like, there's leather straps like right over there. And the host is like, not as good as his belt. Like, I don't know, it doesn't seem quite right, but maybe.
Yeah, so at first it seemed kind of like, so I don't know enough about to know like why you need leather to help sharpen your blade, but first it seemed like, oh, it's kind of a smart, innovative thing. He's like figuring out a way to make it work, and then it's like, no, you're just an idiot. They've got what you need. Why are you doing this?
And then another thing I have written down is like, so the judges were judging like the second time, and they were like, the 2 people, like their karambits are too long, so they cut it off and they welded it back together. And the judges are like, yeah, some people just don't take our advice. Like, well, they obviously tend to get kicked off, and you don't do that.
Right.
So that was kind of interesting where they're doing the second part of the challenge. Like the one dude just had to add like the handle material and just like refine that. While the other 2 had to like cut their karambits and like weld them and then sharpen them and do all the other stuff the other guy had to do too. Like it seemed crazy to me that one guy had, I guess he was just twiddling his thumbs for a while. Like we didn't really get to see.
Well, I was like they tried to edit it. It seemed like he didn't have that much to do, and it like he definitely had less to do, and it seemed like he was kind of twiddling his thumbs. I was wondering if they were setting him up for like a big downfall of like he was overconfident, but he was not overconfident.
Yeah, so like that's definitely one of the things we haven't touched on yet. Is so there's a guy named Paul in the show, and he is just feeling like a pro throughout the whole thing. He's like, oh yeah, karambit, I made one of these when all the other guys were karamba what, and he's like, oh yeah, done this all day. Like everything he does, he just seems very confident in his ability to get the job done.
It seems to me this guy, he makes decorative blades, and he makes quite a few of them. This is his full-time job, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Whether that he's retired and this is what he does, or he's like actually doing it for like money. But like every piece he gave, like karambit and spoilers, he makes the makreka look really good.
Yeah.
Like they look like really good blades, like great art pieces you'd have around. Now, how well they kill or cut, I'm not sure. His tend to do fairly well.
Yeah.
So, but he definitely had a chip on his shoulder because his blades technically looked better than everyone else's blades every time.
Isn't like when they did the intros, the other 3 talked about like how long they've been doing and stuff like that, and he definitely was talking about like the artistic side of how he does it. And I actually, at first, I was like, oh, I think this guy is not up to par. He doesn't have the hardcore technique. But no, he knew his stuff for sure.
Yeah, he's the only one that sported, I believe, would be his own company. So I might have to go to the internet corner, but he was wearing a hat that said Brimstone Knives, and that was the only corporate logo in the whole show.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So he's paying attention. I feel like looks never took part in any of the judging, and I'm very confused. Like, wouldn't that be part of the judging?
Well, they had some things for looks, but it was very minimal compared to how it felt in your hand. And then when they actually would do tests of like the first round judging was purely just they just sat at a table and looked at it and held it and felt it and gave feedback on it. And it was really much more about like how it felt in your hand, if it seemed functional and stuff like that. It wasn't about how like it looked. But they were all like, I wonder if it was just like that's like a tiebreaker thing if they can't decide, but they were sort of a clear pecking order of these are the ones that are good enough.
It just seems like I see the regular challenge not being judged on like how well you had 6 hours, and it's like you're making something you don't know if they've made these things before. You never know. But like in the take home challenge, I feel like how it looks has got to be one of the things that you actually judge it on.
Well, we'll get to the take-home challenge.
Yeah, I was about to say we haven't introduced it.
We can swing to
go.
the take-home challenge.
So quick thing on the judge, like a couple things I liked about the judging. One was when they did the first round, after they gave them some comments at the table, the judges went into a separate room to discuss and deliberate.
Yeah.
But they had the contestants sit, and there was a window where you could see the judges looking at the blades, but you couldn't hear what they were saying. And they had some nice thoughts of like, "Is he of mine? I think they're talking about mine," and I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Then the second round of the judging, they actually did a couple tests where one of the blade guys just hammered it into a wooden dowel to test if the blade would be strong enough. But then our friend, the martial arts guy, sliced ham with them.
Oh yeah.
And he just he's into it, and he's cutting and he's slicing and doing all kinds of stuff. And then, as Chris alluded to, then he has to say at the end of each one, "Your blade, it cuts."
it can
And he's
cut.
very-
It's like it can cut.
It can cut. And He's
Yeah.
very dramatic with it and very excited about it.
Oh yeah.
Super excited.
I'm surprised they called it ham. Like, to give the listeners a bit of a picture, it's actually a back quarter of a pig. So imagine half a butt cheek of a pig cut with one leg, and that's just hanging from a wire.
It is like strapped up like some serial killer's about to murder somebody.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got to give the show credit for coming up with the inventive ways to test blades.
I mean, I don't know if the show's coming up with this. This could just be the typical way they test these and have tested
Quarter
these forever.
to quarter a pig.
That's the standard test.
What's the standard test, Noah?
The pig test.
This is when you could take your blades to the local fair to see if you win the competition.
Right. This is probably where the ham horn comes from.
So then
Play the
just
ham horn.
one last thing is what that they always tested them in the same order. So Paul, the artistic guy, always went last. And so they always had a testimonial of Paul talking about, "Oh, I saw the other two did really well, and I know if mine doesn't do well, I'm out of here." It's like every single time.
The confessionals on the show are terrible.
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh, if my blade breaks, I'm out." I'm like, "No shit, Sherlock." Like, obviously that's what happens. You're out. Like,
Yeah. I would say on a lot of the testing, our reactions were, "Oh man, that might not have gone so well because the cut didn't look deep enough, or it didn't like slice well enough." And then the guy gives his synopsis and he says, "Oh, this is very nice. It can cut."
Yeah.
well,
Like,
the thing
okay.
is like, as we were watching,
Mhm.
like he would stab, slash, and then he'd try to do like this like stab twist thing. And we assumed he was trying to like lacerate after that, and he wasn't. So it was just what he was expecting versus what we were looking and expecting were two different things. And we were like, well, that laceration did look great. And then no one's looked great because he wasn't trying to do anything with it.
I feel like the producers could do a better job there. Like at the beginning of that, they should have had like a little graphic, right? It's like this is the test. Chop, step.
I
Chop.
kind of like that they didn't really show it, and you just started stabbing this pig.
Well, I think they show it and then be like, oh, this was good. Everything was good. So like we have
Yes,
no
that's the thing.
idea.
On
Yeah.
the second round of the judging, all blades did great. So it was very. We didn't have a good barometer for how what does a bad unsharp blade do to a pig? We don't really know that. And so that was the thing where like the guy they decided to go home was really about how his blade felt in his hand. He's like, it's less comfortable than the other two, but like they were all pretty good.
I think that like, you know, as I've been watching Survivor, when they and like the challenge before a challenge event, they have like their testers go through and like kind of you get to see little bits of the challenge. It would have been nice to be like, oh, this is what a real karamba looks like when I fucking lacerate this pig. So then you have a good baseline of like what's good, what's bad.
Could have started with the real one and
Yeah.
then done theirs. Yeah, that would have been
Because like then I have a baseline of what I'm actually looking at, you know. Whereas like in this one, it's like, well, I guess they were all good because I don't know.
Could this show use some of that like CSI CGI where like if you just slash, then it zooms in and you just see like the way it slices through and like this is what we want to see.
Yeah.
I think the budget for the show is not that high.
No.
Budget for the show is not that high. They spent all their budget on their. They had a couple of nice super slow mos with flames and sparks flying. I enjoyed that.
All right, before we move on to the Macraca,
Yes.
like, just like the way the show shows you how they're making these weapons is very haphazard.
Mhm.
It's like does not like stick with any like through line or like try to explain anything that's happening. It's just kind of like this is a moment we're going to show you. I don't know why, but we're showing it to you. And like sometimes they have some small through lines, but like this whole beginning section seems very haphazard, and the confessionals add nothing, and like it just seems very poorly produced
Yeah.
for an in studio kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if there's not that many interesting things watching a guy like try to make a blade. Like,
Yeah, I mean that's but then that's part of the show. Like,
yeah.
well, you got to spice the show up enough to get those interesting
That's
things, or why?
Man.
Like, explain to me what's going on. Like, as we talked about, you can easily add history or add like more facts about what's going on. If you're not getting the entertainment you need out of your contestants.
Right.
Whereas,
That's
like-
definitely the producer's job.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, just like
Yeah.
it doesn't seem to be produced super well.
Do you think this is another strip search situation where the host is also the producer?
Oh, that he's definitely a producer.
Do they have other producers, or is it just him?
Oh, they definitely have other producers. He's like the
Yeah.
lowest producer.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'd be
yeah.
surprised if he was he might be the host all 4 seasons, but he might not.
So you're saying you want the show to have some more ham?
More ham. More ham horns.
more ham or more bacon?
Ham.
So the second half of the show,
Yeah.
the Macraca.
Yeah.
So this is where they have an actual history lesson
Yes.
about like this African nation using Macraca to like murder and decapitate people.
their enemies.
They're enemies. We don't really know anything else about it. We don't know where in Africa, what time period, or anything really about it, other than it was used by some African nation tribe to murder people.
They did have a nice little like drawing, like cartoon.
Yeah, they did. They definitely tried. I
Yeah.
still don't have any idea.
All their production budget went in making that cartoon. Like they had some video footage.
They had to put the production budget into the history lesson so it can be on the History Network. Obviously.
Yeah, I have no idea what the budget of the show is. It might all go to like the judges. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the martial arts judge would do it for free. He's just so excited.
He's so excited.
So an interesting thing about the Macraca though, so the karambit is a small curved knife. The Macraca is the big brother. It's a big curved knife.
It was a specific angle, I think. It's a specific curve.
They said something about like the curve would be 4 inches or something. Like there was
Yeah.
very specific about how it was going to be curved.
Yeah,
I
4
don't
inch
know.
depth.
Is it still a knife at that point? It's like basically like a sword, really.
It's definitely just like a sword.
I feel like
It's not a short sword either. It's just a sword.
Knife and Sword is the documentary reality show of the metal world.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's interesting. So like they're given this task. And then
Yeah.
the show goes to their forge. It goes to their like workshop essentially.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because these people don't make curved swords.
No.
They just don't. Like they're just making regular long swords. So like these people don't have the specific equipment to be making this particular sword.
Right.
Like both their forges aren't long enough.
I noticed that they were not long enough, or they were too narrow for like such a curved
Yeah.
blade.
So they couldn't heat this thing
Yeah.
up as evenly as they want to
yeah.
because it's just different shape. And then the one guy didn't even have a way to cool his sword because all he had was like a normal longsword box with oil in it.
Yeah.
He needed to build something. He built something, whereas like the other dude just had a giant fucking barrel.
He
Yeah.
definitely MacGyvered something so he could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, well, then he went his oil was bad.
Right.
Yeah, he kept trying to do this. This is the thing that really needed a
Yeah.
side explanation of
Mhm.
what they're actually trying to do, because they'd heated it up in their forge and like talking about how it was hard because of the shape. Then they dump it in the oil to cool it off, which is kind of really cool because it's flames always shoot out when they do that.
Yeah.
Like, why does it have to be in oil, not water? And what is that actually doing to the metal? And how does it work with the sword? Like, and so he just kept doing it and saying it wasn't right and that it wasn't working right. And finally he goes, I guess my oil's bad. I got to drive to somewhere and get new oil. There's
Yeah.
a shot
It
of his
seem-
car driving away.
No idea.
It seems like what I can glean, because it was actually quite a bit of portion of this, was like when you heat it up and you put it in the oil, it makes it hard. And if it doesn't if it's not hard at the end, then you don't have a sword.
Right.
You have a malleable piece of metal, I guess. I don't know what non-hard steel is. I don't know. But that's what I got out of that. It seems like water probably would evaporate and wouldn't cool it right. I'm sure there's like some sort of like temperature there that like it's just not going to work.
Yeah, I was
Like-
really curious if they
Like it's
kept putting
1500
into
degrees
what?
or something supposedly.
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
To imagine putting 1500 degrees into water, it might flame. It might just flame up.
It would splash, wouldn't it?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know
I
what
don't know what
happened.
it
Yeah.
is.
I'm
That's
sure
why
there's
we.
a-
That's why we
I'm
need to
sure
show to
there's a
explain
YouTube
it.
video of this.
Yeah.
Some idiot doing this. I'm sure it's out there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So one guy got new oil, and the other guy remote a blade. He's like, I got to test this blade, make sure it's strong enough. And he goes outside. He tries to cut something with it. His blade just snaps in half.
Yeah, like just no way getting that back. Just
Yeah.
snapped. Like, and then there was like, oh, he's rushing. He's like claims he has to rush, and like, I don't know if that storyline's actually true or not. Like, did he
Yeah.
actually have to rush?
Well, the only thing with the 5 days is like, it really made it seem like they did way more on the 5th day than like the other 4 days combined.
Yeah.
And they also seem to kind of be wearing the same clothes every day. So, like, I wonder if it was really was 5 days
They-
or.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they just Superman it. They've got the same outfit every day.
Could be like they've got my forging gear. Like maybe you do need to wear like special kind of.
Oh, you
clothes.
definitely
yeah,
have
you
to wear
definitely
some
do.
sort of gear.
Yeah.
So they're just like, yeah, this is my forging clothes,
It's
and
a-
so
Well,
Yeah.
the one dude's forge was like outside.
Right.
It
It's
is
like
like
a
kinda
garage.
outside.
Or
Yeah,
something.
if you're in your garage, the one dude looked like the middle of winter. Like you're definitely
yeah,
wearing
the Colorado
this-
guy was definitely in the snowy winter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're definitely wearing your winter coat, and like all the stuff you need. That's all going to be the same.
Yeah, that's true.
So
So one tidbit about the Macraca, and they talked about this. So it's a curved sword. And then
wait,
at the-
it's curved. Did we? What?
yeah.
Oh,
Shocking. So it's curved. And then at the end of it, it kind of protrudes a little. So it looks like anatomy to a degree. And then the show, they reference that the tribe made it like this to represent the person's manhood. Quote, on the show. So it is not a random coincidence. The sword looks like a piece of anatomy.
Yeah, that's a history lesson for you.
That was a history lesson.
I was perusing my notes and I missed a note from the first section.
Oh, give it to us.
So one of the guys was leaving, and he was like, "Once you stop learning, is when they put you in the ground,"
oh yeah,
which I thought was quite funny.
Good.
little
good
little
quote.
overdramatic there.
Well, I mean, this whole show, like the beginning of the show, is so dramatic.
Yes,
Like it was so serious.
This
there's-
is a pretty serious show, except for the martial arts guy.
Yeah. Well, I feel like once we got to this Macraca part, it blew up a little bit. Like we got a little bit more personality. These two guys.
Yeah,
That like wasn't just about how serious this competition is.
It definitely turned a little bit more reality. At least on like the production, like when they come back to the set, unknowingly where this is in America, they say where they live. They don't say where they go back to. So they go back to an undisclosed location. You know, they have like some nicer clothes on. Like they kind of like made a little bit dramatic entrance, and they're in some like training pit to go slice up some mannequins and watermelon.
definitely seemed like a cavern of some sort.
Mm.
Before we get to this,
Yes.
I have a question.
Oh.
Do you think that these 4 people, they were just said, hey, before you get on the show, you've got to make this Macraca thing. And then they have to show up in the studio, they make the Karambits. And then after whoever wins the Karambit thing, then they bring their Macracas out. Because there's no way, it seems way more expensive to have them come to the studio, make the Karambit, and then, go home, make this other thing, and then come back to the studio. That doesn't seem like how you do that.
I like it. It's a good conspiracy theory.
I don't think that's a conspiracy theory. I think that's just how it's done.
I gotta go back and like try to see any clues about things they say, see if they're like, because then they would have had. So if that's true, they make the Macraca before they even make the Karambit. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to. So I was thinking the same thing when I was watching it. I was like, that's kind of odd. They fly back again. That's always kind of weird. They didn't say where they're flying from. You can't tell. There was nothing. The voice. It's all voiceovers during it, and so there wasn't any like signal. The only thing would be they had to send a camera crew out to their place.
Well, they're
which is
already
kind of
chosen. They have to send a camera crew no matter what.
No, but think about it. They would have done it pre. So 4 people.
Yeah.
Right?
You'd have to send it to 4 people instead of 2.
Right.
But I think
Which
the
is-
expensive part there is getting these people back and forth.
Well, I guess so to play the other side of it, you now have to send 4 different camera crews out instead of just sending 2.
Well,
So
you
there's-
just send.
you
You don't
some
have to send them
expense
all
there.
out at the same time. Like you give this guy 5 days. It doesn't have to be everyone has to do it the same 5 days.
No, I know, but you could just be like, you're not saving as much money. The fact you have
Right.
to send out more camera crews versus just flying the guys back and forth.
You're definitely not saving money, right? Because you have to fly all that equipment out. Like the general idea that they have to fly home is just a bad production choice. Like some producers did not think through that. Of like, hey,
Well, that's why we're fixing that problem right now by doing it before they get there.
right. Well, I think you make them stay at the studio for 5 days and just get a hotel.
Nah.
Right? Hey, you gotta use our stuff.
So if they actually make them fly back, so then day 1 they have production to do the first 2 parts. Then so do you think like they do a week, they do like a different one every day, and then they fly everybody back at the same time and they just bust out that last segment for like 10 different shows all in the same day?
Yeah, that's got to be it. Yeah,
If
you're
they were-
right.
If they were good, if they were like nice to the contestants, you could just do this on the weekend. You have somebody flies out weekend 1, you film an episode Saturday, film an episode Sunday, and then they fly back the next weekend
Yeah.
to do, or like you could even do like if you're gonna do multiple seasons, like you could have all of them kind of come back later to do the follow-up episodes. But you could probably do. I mean, it'd be a long production day, but you could do an episode, the whole episode in one day. But like episode 1 and the episode 2, then the end of episode 1 after
Right.
episode 2 aired, or like in between, because the judges are the only things you really need, and they're not
Right.
in the same place.
Yeah.
Whereas they're doing the regular show, like they were outside like at night to do the judging of the Macracas.
Yeah,
Right.
no, you're definitely right.
I
I'm
think
sure that's how they do
I mean,
it.
if they were for these people as a hobby, that would be the optimal way for the contestants. Who knows what they actually do? I don't
Yeah,
know.
and I actually thinking back to this, because they're flying home, it is a lot cheaper than putting up in a hotel. Well, depending on where this soundstage is, right?
But you got to put those cameramen in a hotel, or do they just bunk
Yeah.
at the person's house? That's part
Yeah.
of the deal.
or
You
they
gotta
get a
feed
local
the
crew,
cameraman.
right? Yeah, yeah. Definitely some close math there on the cost of it. But I agree that you're shooting one full show per day, but it's the ending of the previous show, right? Or theoretically, right? And then the opening of the other show,
They don't have to make it before the show.
That's right.
right?
Okay, so testing these Macracas.
Yeah.
So they come into the studio, and instead of pigs, there's an actual full torso with like fake organs in it, and
Like
the
An anatomically correct dummy.
something like that.
Yeah.
There's no head on this thing.
No,
It's just
but
the
it's
torso.
fleshy and it has organs in it and like a
And
chest
something to
cavity.
represent bones too, because he
Yeah.
mentioned one of the bones was broke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this dude the martial artist dude takes the Makramba or and just
Macraca.
Makraka, doesn't matter, and like just slices into this thing.
Yeah,
Where I was interested is that there was only a blade on the inside. It seemed.
Yeah.
So you never really used the other side unless you were like gonna hit them in the head or something.
yeah.
Some sort of blunt instrument on the other side.
Unlike the karambit, this is only supposed to be sharp on one side.
Yep.
And it's the inside and not the outside.
That's
Correct.
right. So you can slice around someone's sword or shield.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which sets us at some sort of time period.
Yeah.
But I don't know which one.
It's a wide time period.
So after that, they have some sort of shield that the one guy just hacks at the sword with.
Not
It's-
the martial arts guy. Though. One
It's
of the
not
other-
the martial arts
The
guy. I don't know what
historian.
the other guy is.
Yeah, and they're the blade masters, and so like
Mm-hmm.
they're not seeing how well the sword attacks the shield, but just does cutting up the shield mess up the sword at all.
But the one guy's sword does way better at cutting up
Yeah.
this shield than the other guy's.
So an interesting thing that the martial artist guy said that was not obvious just looking at it is that one guy's sword was super light, the other
Mhm.
guy's sword was pretty heavy.
And
that
what
was-
like if you thought about it looking at those two just via pictures, you could tell because the other guy had like he had some sort of inlay in his steel
Yeah.
and it just kind of like looked thicker. So like you never know what these things are going to be tested against. Like did they
That's
know
true.
like hey, when you come back these are the tests we're going to do?
I don't think so.
Cuz like they would have tried to attempt them like
Yeah.
and I think that you would have realized, oh, they're going to do this horizontal like chop thing. And I can't do this with this. Now maybe
Right.
I should like get the weight down. But
Mhm.
you never, like, you didn't know. I doubt you knew.
Mm-hmm.
They
Didn't
could have
seem like-
known, but I don't
Yeah.
think they
I don't think they did.
I don't think so.
So both swords did very well in both those two challenges.
Oh, yeah.
They were like neck and neck.
What did our friend say about when after he sliced up the torso about the sword?
It can kill.
Yes.
Reminds me of Pharrell from Game of Thrones. The dancer that was teaching Arya.
Oh yeah.
And
Not today.
Not today. So then the last
Last test.
test was these watermelons hung up like suspended via ropes,
Yeah.
one horizontal, one vertical,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna call him the dancing master comes through and chops through the center of these watermelons. This dude's amazing. The
Yeah.
center of the watermelons every time.
Oh yeah.
Like there's no joking here. He's like, no, we're not doing these not slightly up, not slightly lower, in the center.
Yeah.
And he's just fucking the lighter sword, perfect.
Mhm.
Heavier sword barely didn't cut through horizontally.
Yeah. But did great verdict.
Did great vertically. So like, it was a little heavy.
Yeah.
Maybe the dancing master just wasn't strong enough.
That was the thing. Like that was the
Right.
the very last one was the only test where clearly one blade didn't do as well.
Yeah.
But it also made it all very anticlimactic when they announced
Yeah.
the winner. It's like, well,
Yeah, it's too heavy, buddy. Even though he had a bunch of like inlays and
Yeah, this is the thing where, like-
his handle looked better.
Yeah.
this is the
and-
thing I was gonna say. Since all the other tests went well, if he had slices through that watermelon, I think he wins. And I think it comes down to, hey, both these blades are great at the tests, but this one looks better, and that's why we're gonna pick this one.
I imagine that's what would happen. But who knows? The other people would be like, "Oh, well, I like this one more, swinging this one more because it's lighter."
They could have gone for that because like how it feels was a big part of what they were doing.
Yeah.
Like it seems it would be more along with the show to be feels than looks.
I don't. Yeah, I can see the feel like based on the show. It's these people are going to use this in warfare, and again, like saying like you want it to be light, and if it cuts as well, light and powerful, like go for the light. Like it seemed more practical, and as practical as Macraca can be.
But like, okay, if you have this weapon and you're trying to use it to freaking murder people, like you're not just going up one person and murdering them. You've got to go and you're murdering them, and you're like sharpening this thing. You're murdering people. You're like, this is not just like this one. It's not just these specific tests. Like it's very limited tests here.
So you think they should have actually tried to murder a person? With
Well, I just think that like, okay, well, they were good at murdering one person. All right, well, how many people can we murder before we have to sharpen this blade again? And then that'll tell you how sharp it is, or like how useful it is. Like, what is a typical day if you're in a battle? How sharp do you need it to be? How long do you need it to be sharp? Like, if you're gonna make these ridiculous tests, like, let's go to the next step. Like, let's take these superficial tests, which are great, but they're not like practical tests if you're gonna go this history lesson route.
right.
It definitely would be cool if they had more money to fly, like, in one of the tribes people, if the tribe is still around, or like someone who knows a lot about that tribe, right? Like they're like the historian or like a fake warrior to come out and be like, oh yeah, like this is how we would use it. This is what we would do.
I'd just love to see them have like 20 torsos and be like, in a typical battle, like this is how many like thrusts, these are many things that they have to like attack and kill, and like just like, and see how well the blade actually does after all that. Versus just like, oh well, 4 slices, that's enough. What? How is that enough?
Yeah.
Like you should just go until like it's difficult to be like you should just go till it's broken. Or like actually has damage, which would tell you which blade was better
That's
at
true.
a specific task. So it'd be difficult to do that with like multiple things. So you'd have to like kind of do all of the tests at once and like see where they actually start falling apart. I don't know. I think at that point I'm just nitpicking, but like
Yeah,
it would have been weird to have them all go through. Like everyone did so well in all the challenges, except for the last final one. So it just wasn't that exciting.
Well, that's it. We don't know if that's what happens every time, or if
We
it's
don't.
like
We don't know
they
that.
actually crushed it this week. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why I got the highest rating on IMDb, because they crushed it.
Maybe.
Even though it doesn't seem all that like it'd be more entertaining to see some of these fail. Like I'd rather see failures than successes.
Like when the guy was back at his home base and he tried to test his sword and just broke in half. That was
yeah, that was
Yeah.
great. And
Yeah.
then like the narratives of like, oh, we're at a time, like there's just the narrative of all these swords doing really great just isn't the best entertainment.
But this has an 8.4 series rating
Ooh.
on IMDb. That's very high.
How many people is that?
1,500 ratings. TBD, how many people?
How many
It's
of
just
them are
one.
you?
It's one person. They got a Fiverr account to.
Will Willis underscore 1. Will Willis underscore 2.
That's
Will
right.
Willis underscore 3.
The last thing I want to say is that I thought was unfair is whenever anyone leaves the show, they confiscate the thing they made.
Yeah.
Usually that should be your like parting gift. You should be able to take it home with you.
You should, if you lose this competition, you should take. You should be able to take your weapon. If you win, I think it's nice for the show to have like a wall of winners.
The winner wall.
But I could also see you being able to take it home. Like it'd be nice to be like, oh well, I was on this fucking Forge show. I was the master blader or whatever the fuck they called it.
You're the forged in fire champion.
I'd like the master blader.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah. No, that was pretty good.
And you get some sort of you make some sort of plaque and put your like thing in there, your blade, and that, your anatomically looking blade.
Man, what do you think the TSA agent said when you're bringing the Macraca back through? What is?
You definitely gotta check that.
Oh yeah,
Oh, that's definitely a checked item for sure. Yeah,
checking your Macraca.
yeah. It was weird that they had to give it in. I don't understand that logic. Like,
Yeah.
what are they gonna do with the losing blades? Like, what are you gonna do with them?
It would have been fascinating trying to see them pack the Macraca.
Yeah.
What do you pack it in?
I mean, they had to pack it to get it there.
They got it from Colorado to, I'm guessing, L.A.
Like, do you just wrap it up in like thick paper, or do you put it in a bag? Like, literally, how do you transport?
You put it inside a pig, and then that's how you do it.
I think you just have like a suitcase that's like for your sword.
But this sword is so oddly shaped, right?
Yeah, it's a big suitcase.
Right, it's like wide, where a lot of swords are not going to be that wide, right? It's like it's
Yeah.
yeah. That'd have been interesting to see.
I feel like so like I have a quote that I want to get to, but these people with they could also their main job could be like just making like Lord of the Ring replica swords and like
Oh, that's true.
Mhm.
like movie replica props and stuff like that. It's definitely would be what I could see you making a lot of money on.
Get those Game of Thrones Valyrian steel
Yeah,
lookalikes.
yeah. Get the red sword. Yeah, just like that. Like is what you'd make your money on, I think. I don't think you're making your money on anything other than that. Like you make a regular sword, you're not making that much money out of that. No, this is a commodity item.
It all seems niche.
I mean, yeah, it's certainly niche, but you want to go after the high value niche target, which would be like replica sword, like a replica sword.
Yeah, or there's like, what else can you make with metal? Is metallurgy the right thing? Like things you
I
make
think
out of
so.
metal? Yeah,
We'll go with that.
I
Yeah.
think metallurgy is more than just forging blades, though.
is like the chemical makeup.
Well, it's just like if you made a metal sculpture, you use metallurgy. But
Yeah, so
that's
that's what I mean, right? So like maybe these are like more metal artists, and they can do like
I don't
I don't
know.
know
I
what
feel
else
like
they
that's a
make with
different
metal.
skill set.
They seem very excited with the fact they make weapons. I'm just gonna say.
I feel
They are
like they all make
weapon-
weapons.
weaponistas.
Another thing is like, how do they have so many people to bring onto the show? Like, how many people are doing this in their backyard?
I
Like,
guess
can't be that many people.
there's enough to do 4 seasons of the show. Maybe that's why season 4 they started bringing people back.
Oh, that's why when you said that, I was like, oh, that's definitely the reason. But they went from like 8 to like 12 to like 16. They're making 24 episodes. So it's like clearly they're ramping up. But yeah, I can't believe there's this many people to do this.
You only need a
Yeah.
few hundred people to sustain many seasons of the show, though.
Yeah,
It's true. But how many of them would actually want to come on the show?
I don't know. That's a good point. Gotta get that $10,000.
they probably got time.
Some sort of winners competition too.
Gotta have the winners competition.
I'm sure in the weapon community, this is a big show.
Probably. So what was the dude's name? Paul?
Paul and Craig were the final two, and Paul was the confident one.
So Paul, the confident one,
Yeah,
he loses because his looks better, but it's too heavy.
correct.
As he's leaving, he says the first thing he's gonna do is he's gonna take a nap. He had a long week.
So great.
Yeah.
So I mean, I feel like it works either way. If he like right before the competition made the McCracken, and then went on the show
Release the
versus
Kraken.
the like, there's lots of those. Versus like, oh, he was on the show, then he had 5 days, and they flew him back. Like, the 5 days makes it seem like it's a weekend thing.
Could be.
Maybe it allows like the other judges to actually have other jobs too.
That's true.
Yep.
Like, and it could just be just how the production kind of would work.
That's tough. You go like that day one, they're like 6 hours of actual making blades, and there's judging time in between and stuff. Like that's a big day.
Well, no, so it's like while the 4 people are making the stuff for the 3 hours, so the judges go film the other thing and then come back.
See, but I don't. Yeah, but they can only film those two concurrently, probably.
Yeah. They're
Right.
filming a different episode.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm-
it's not
All right,
linear.
guys, we got to move away from the production side of the show.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
right.
All right, Noah. Speaking of the IMDb ratings,
Yeah.
what is your rating?
I'm gonna put this as a solid middle. They don't ham it up. There's a lot of action, which I value in these reality shows, where they're not trying to draw out the suspense so much just to keep cutting to more commercials. That said, it could be more entertaining. There's a lot of good content that they just don't promote well enough, and so that's what is keeping it out of the top. I could see Netflix picking this up, putting a little more cash behind it, and turning it into a really great show.
It's possible. Rob, what do you got for me?
I think I'm gonna put this one in the top. I think there are definitely some things it could do better, but I was pretty entertained throughout, and I kind of want to watch some more. I think it would be kind of fun to see some other episodes, see what other kind of like blades they do. And maybe it'll get old, but I was entertained, so I'm gonna give it a top.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm conflicted once again between the middle and the top. I was leaning top, and then I've shat on it for the last like 40 minutes or whatever.
You talked yourself out of it.
So I'm like trying to talk myself out of it. We've seen some real terrible shows this season. My stack ranking is quite off. So I don't like if they would just tell me a little bit more what's going on.
Yeah.
And if they would just like show more interesting stuff in the beginning, like it's got to be middle. It can't be top. They just didn't do a good job. The production value is just not good enough.
Yeah.
Like I've been watching Survivor.
Ooh, good segue.
As one would do, and the production value is just so good, and the people like they have like so many hours of content to go through to put together an hour's worth of TV that they do such a good job of like me caring about like these stupid people and their stupid drama about who they're gonna vote off the fucking island. That like I can't forgive the show for just not doing any of that. Like they have 6 hours of content, 6+ hours, and the half-hour show is just not good. Like it just wasn't. The second half was much better, but again, I feel like they didn't do a good job of explaining what's going on. I don't know. It's unforgivable to have the beginning.
Any good Survivor update for us?
I think the challenge people aren't here, but I like this. I like Survivor more than the challenge. Like the producers know what the fuck they're doing, and it's moving. There's no bullshit. Half a
how's
challenge
the Redemption
episode.
Island?
There's no Redemption Island.
Oh, what?
There's just that one Redemption Island.
Oh, okay.
He was on Redemption Island for a week, then he came back.
Oh, okay.
There's no redemption because that's dumb. But it's like there's like somebody like they use these terms that everyone knows that is just kind of interesting to me. They were like, oh, she was playing the jury. She was doing some sort of jury move. Because once the tribes merge, the people that get kicked off vote whoever wins at the end. So like there's some sort of jury management you need to do if you're at the end, and like they knew this person was gonna get kicked off, so they like tipped her off as some sort of jury management kind of move, and there was a showmance, as happens in the challenge a lot, but it happens in the show. And then the one person was like, "This person's too dumb. It's gonna get me. I gotta get him out of the show because he's holding me back."
Oh,
so
man.
she's trying to get him out of the show. It's just like these minor things, and like everyone in the show knows exactly what's going on, and it's kind of interesting to see these people play this challenge meta game when they've never played, or challenge Survivor meta game. They've never played this game before, so it's like, how good are you going to be at this? I don't know, but it's interesting to see you guys try.
Yeah.
Whereas like the challenge I can't. I don't know. I'm just kind of over the show for sure.
Shots fired at Harrison.
Shots fired, guys. Come back at me.
Yeah, I was never a fan of the challenge.
That's fair. I kind of watch it now just so, which I might stop. But again, it's like I actually sat down and watched Survivor. I don't sit down and watch the challenge.
No, definitely
Yeah.
not.
That is it's on some sort of side and I'm like doing other things
Right.
because I don't care.
Yeah.
Like the challenges that they do in Survivor are different than the challenge in the challenge. Like they're not physical. They're like there's usually some catch up thing at the end where they're doing some sort of puzzle so that they can have entertaining TV. I wish that was done that was a little better, but it's entertaining. I can't fault them for doing something that actually makes it entertaining to have like some sort of catch up mechanic. But it's very obvious, which I wish it would be less obvious. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you have to go through this net and then like jump across this thing and then climb over this thing. But at the end, there's this somewhat complicated puzzle. Well, guess what? All the teams get through it and get to the somewhat complicated puzzle. Then you're like, oh, well, back and forth on whoever's going to win. And there's like, oh, sometimes it's like, well, you have to do this 3 times, but if you fail, you got to start all over again. Well, that makes it easy to have like, oh, well, you were winning, but now you're not. So it's just like the challenges are designed in a way to make it more entertaining, but like not like as good of a challenge necessarily.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's quite obvious. So I don't know if I guess no one really cares that they do that all the time. So that's my Survivor update.
Nice.
Actually, you know, I'm gonna bump Survivor up to the top third. I think that it is as I'm halfway through the season. I think it's deserved its top third.
Wow.
I see. I was right in the middle of our big no top third streak. So now the history books have
been rewritten. Rewritten. Yeah.
Womp womp.
History books.
The history
one.
books. The history. Can we talk for a second about the History Channel and how garbage it is?
Please do.
I don't have TV anymore, but like if this is what the fuck they're putting on, like I enjoyed like Modern Marvels when that came out, and that was kind of like a reality. Is that a reality show? Not a reality show? I don't know. It's
No.
like documentary-esque kind of thing.
It's a documentary.
And that was really interesting to see how like some things like evolved.
Yeah.
And like there's 10 seconds of history in the show.
It was a good 30, I think.
30 seconds of pseudo history.
Yeah.
I understand that they're going after ratings and stuff, but like
So I brought up the History Channel's schedule of the day. I mean, it's just tomorrow, or I guess it's today. But looking at it, it is all either reality show, specifically American Pickers, which is on from 3 o'clock
haven't
until
done that
midnight. Just different episodes of American Pickers. Or Ancient Impossible, which is more similar to Modern Marvels.
Right.
So yeah, it seems like those are the only 2 types of shows they have.
maybe this each day of the week they have different reality shows.
Oh,
they put on
shit.
all day.
On Thanksgiving, they had Forged in Fire, Bladesgiving, the Tournament of Champions.
Oh.
Oh.
Should we watch that?
I think we
What's
should.
the IMDb rating on that one?
So topical.
Yeah, Bladesgiving.
All right.
Blades
Oh,
Giving.
it's an enhanced 3-hour episode.
Oh, I'm glad we did not do that.
Yeah,
one.
we're definitely not doing that.
All right.
Rough.
Rob, you watching
Although-
any new shows?
I'm not really watching anything. Don't have time right now. Well, I guess I'm watching football. That's it.
Ooh,
How are those bets working out for you?
It's going all right.
not bad. Not bad.
I also started my Game of Thrones rewatch.
I saw that. It's
'Cause,
impressive.
you gotta start early when you've got 70 episodes of TV to watch. Season 1's really good. I was like lukewarm on Game of Thrones, like the new season, but now after watching season 1, I'm like, oh, I'm back in. Like it's just like so good. Sean Bean, so sad but so good.
It's true. It's like, are you back in on thinking the last season was better than you thought, or you're just back in on the show?
I'm just back on the hype of Game of Thrones.
Got it.
Like I haven't gotten to the new season to like pull me back down yet. My big complaint with the newest season was just like how ludicrous it was to get them all north of the wall.
Yeah, that made no sense.
Minor spoilers, but like doesn't really matter. That just made no sense. Other than that, I think they're doing an okay job. Like I was definitely more upset when they go off the books before they get to the end of the books, because some of the changes make no sense, like logically. And there's definitely like logic that, George R. R. Martin thinks about that the show just like either doesn't or can't figure out how to get done correctly. Just like the Harry Potter movies.
Ooh, the Harry Potter.
Doing the Harry Potter. Noah, you been watching anything? You wanna?
The Good Place. I'm assuming everyone's watching that, and if you're not, that is the show to watch. Season 3 on the air, and it's as good as it has been.
I think it's a good binging show.
It is very good for binging. Tangential to The Good Place is a podcast, Armchair Expert. So that's from Dax Shepard, Kristen Bell's husband. But he does a week of, or just a couple episodes, I don't know, of Good Place People. He does an episode with Ted Danson. Very cool to hear Ted Danson on the podcast.
What is he an armchair expert of?
Kind of everything. It's I think it's like the running joke.
Is this just an interview show?
It's just an interview show. So Dax Shepard and Kristen Bell seem to be like just buddies with everyone in Hollywood. And so they invite on people. And because the show's gotten popular, he's now bringing on like guests outside of their social circle. And he does a good job. He hits a lot on like vulnerability and like his own problems with alcoholism and like bringing out then other people's like issues who come on. So I think you get like different angles of a lot of people that you see on TV.
All right. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Some recommendations from Who Put This On crew.
Since Ted Danson's doing podcasts now, do you think he'd come on this podcast?
Oh, yeah.
Probably.
No, get the feelers out.
On it.
No, I need you to get Facebook ads just for Ted Danson. Just bother him so much that he comes on our podcast.
Mr. Danson.
Well, if you're Ted Danson, you can reach us at Who Put This On Twitter. You can find us on Facebook.com/Who Put This On. You can email us questions and suggestions at whoputthison@gmail.com. Please give us a rating on iTunes. It really helps. And we'll see you guys next time.